So there's about 2 dozen different varieties of tarot spreads, and each one has a different purpose. We're going to go through a bunch of them. Now, this is just a representative sampling. There's a whole lot more, but these are the ones that I use, and maybe they can help you out. Not really sure, what approach you're taking, but I'm going to start with my approach. And one of the first things you have to do is you have to ask what kind of question they're asking, right? You don't need to know the question itself. In fact, it's probably a good idea if you don't. But at the end of the day, it usually comes down to one of a couple of different kinds of questions. And the first one is, what should I do? The next one is almost always a relationship question. Okay, so actually, relationship questions are usually number one. But we're going to start with the "what should I do" question, and sometimes it's relationship based, so it kind of splits the difference. Here we go. The decision spread. It's got a couple of different names. The decision spread, the ellipse spread, choices. But it starts with 7 cards laid out in this pattern that you see on the screen now. And so the first card is past influences, right? The things that have happened in the past that are influencing the choice that is being considered now, right? Card number 2 is new or current influences, right? It's something that, if nothing had changed, they wouldn't be coming to a decision in the first place. So something has recently changed, and it's going to be your job to help them to figure out what they need to do next based on what has recently changed, right? Card number 3 is future influences. These are things that are going to come to pass in all likelihood, right? And all 3 of those taken together brings you to point number 4, which is the actual decision. Card number 4 is the actual decision. It's what to do. After you hit card number 4, you're following one choice to its logical conclusion, right? Which gives you card number 5. What are the external influences on this decision? What, after they make this decision and they act on it, what's going to happen from outside that's going to have an effect on the final outcome? Card number 6 is hopes and fears. Okay, so they've made the decision, and now they have to live with the choice. And card number 6 says, well, this is what you hope is going to happen, and this is what you're afraid is going to happen. Which takes us to card number 7, which is the probable outcome. Okay, what is the most likely thing that is actually going to happen after you enact this decision? Now, this is a unique spread in tarot in that you can follow the decision down each different choice, right? So you come to card 4 and you lay out 5, 6, and 7 already. You say, this is what's going to happen if you decide this way, right? But then suppose that that's not enough information, right? And they need to know what's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen if I choose the other way? Understanding that the first choice is always the one that they're most likely to go with, whether they'll admit it to you or admit it to themselves or not. That second choice is significantly less likely that they're going to pick it, but you run the same set of interpretations on 8, 9, and 10 as you did on 5, 6, and 7, right? External influences, hopes and fears, probable outcomes. And you can, let's say it's not a 2-part choice, right, between A and B or yes and no or whatever. You can keep running all of the possible choices past the decision point, and you just keep repeating external influences, hopes and fears, and probable outcome on each possible answer to the question, each possible choice. Gives you 11, 12, and 13, 14, 15, and 16, and that's 4 different possible choices right there. So another interesting thing about this spread is you can take it also to the next decision point at the probable outcome and see what branches off from there, treating that probable outcome as a point at which they need to make another decision. And then you read 18, 19, 20, and 20, 21, or sorry, 21, 22, and 23, again, as external influences, hopes and fears, and probable outcome. But this time, when you backtrack, when you go back to 8, 9, and 10, you take a look at them again as past influences, new influences, and future influences. So all those things that happened between 4 and 10, instead of being the external influences, the hopes and fears, and the probable outcome, they become the past influences, the current influences, and the future influences. Except that they're still all future influences. Right? It's everything that's going to happen after that decision point. The mirror spread. The mirror spread is a relationship spread. It's all about what's going on in their relationship and how people view them and they view the other person and so forth and so on. So you start with card number 1, which is who they are, right? It's everything about the individual that you're actually doing the reading for. And they've got another person in mind, right? I'll back up here. They've got another person in mind. Whoever that other person is, you don't need to know them. You don't need to know anything about them. This is strictly about the person sitting in front of you. So number 1 tells you what's important about the person sitting in front of you as it relates to their relationship with whoever this other person is, right? Now, card number 2 is the way the person sitting in front of you feels about sees the other person. What is it about the other person that your querent is seeing, right? Move on to card number 3, and that's the way the other person sees whoever it is sitting in front of you, right? So you get that kind of reflective aspect, right? One against the other, and then the other one back against the first. And card number 4 is what the other person represents to your querent, right? Do they represent emotional security, instability, whatever? And then obviously on card number 5, it's what the person sitting in front of you represents to that other person. Okay, you come up on card number 6. You've got, now this is where it gets a little tricky because you're no longer comparing the two people. Right now you're talking about the actual relationship itself, right? And card number 6 is obstacles within the relationship. These are things that are getting in the way, whether it's another person, a job, transportation, whatever. These are the things that are interfering. Then you've got card number 7, which is mirror of card number 6. It's a mirror of the obstacles, and card number 7 is the strengths within the relationship. Right? And it could be the exact same thing. Transportation could be both a weakness and a strength. Right? One person has it, the other doesn't. They live right next door to each other, so it's too easy to see each other, and yet, anyway. And then that takes you all the way up to card number 8, which is the probable result of this particular relationship. What's going to be the outcome? And usually it's the probable result that everybody's interested in, right? But you can't give them the probable result without building those foundations of who that person is, the way each of the two people see each other, and what the two people represent to each other. Cup and Wand, probably the most famous spread in tarot is the Cup and Wand, and it's also called the Celtic Cross, and there is a slight difference between the Cup and Wand and the Celtic Cross. But it's not a visual difference; it's an interpretive difference, right? So you start out, and we call it the significator. It's card number 1, right? And it's about the person sitting across from you. This is who they are in this particular reading. And you've got card number 1. Now, yeah, I know. The S was actually card number 1, but just go with it. Card number 1 is the inner state or the situation. It's how the other person is feeling or what particular aspect of their personality is relevant to this reading. And you've got card number 2, which is crossing, and it's actually the immediate obstacles or the outer situation, the things that are going around that are interfering with whatever's going on. Card number 3 is the prevailing ideal, goal, or principle. It's what's important today. That's why it's positioned above, right? Because it represents, the higher thinking. Card number 4, this is the basic thing, it's the foundations, the most basic aspect of the situation. Card number 5, the immediate past, the things that have just happened that are relevant to the situation, right? What's going on? Takes you to card number 6, out front, it's the immediate future. What's about to happen right now? Next day or two, maybe even the next just few hours, maybe a whole week. But it's important to note here that the immediate future is not the end state for this reading, right? It's just things that are going to happen. They're going to have an influence on the final outcome. And this is where the Cup and Wand and the Celtic Cross diverge, right? In the Cup and Wand, card number 7 is fears, the things that the person's afraid of, right? They're afraid that might happen. In the Celtic Cross, card number 7 represents how they're approaching the situation. Is it a happy situation and yet somehow they're sad about it? Is it a sad situation for some reason they're happy? In the Celtic Cross, it's how they're approaching the situation. And in the Cup and Wand, it's what they're afraid of. Card number 8 in the Cup and Wand is other people's feelings about the situation, right? And it could be just the person they're in a relationship with, or it could be all of the people that they work with. There's either a specific or a general feeling that is pervading the situation, and that's what card number 8 reflects in the Cup and Wand. Now, in the Celtic Cross, it's almost identical because it's talking about the surroundings, the things that are going on around the person. And then you see the Cup and Wands and the Celtic Cross come back together, and they're both talking about hopes and fears or hopes and wishes. And in the Cup and Wand, it's hopes and wishes. In the Celtic Cross, it's hopes and fears. And it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's how the person that's receiving the reading, what they're afraid of or what they're hopeful for in this situation, what they want the outcome to be. And then, of course, card number 10, which is the last card in this reading, is the potential outcome. And we already talked about the Celtic Cross. It's the same thing. Course of action spread. It's a 5-card spread. It starts with the present, what's going on right now. Past influences, these are all the things that are affecting the situation that have already happened. Future influences, which is self-explanatory. The reason behind the question. So you don't come to a diviner or tarot card reader or an expert friend when you're buying a car or you're going to the grocery store and you have to decide whether or not to get the brand name milk or the off-brand milk, right? You come to a tarot card reader when you don't understand what's going to happen. And there's a dozen different reasons actually why you would come to a tarot card reader, but one of them is that you don't understand what's going to happen. But card number 4 in the course of action spread is the reason why your subject is coming to you to ask this question. Why do they need to know? What's the reason behind asking? And then, of course, card number 5, last card in the draw, is almost universal. Is what is the potential outcome? You've chosen a course of action already, so it's not helping you make a decision. But you've chosen a course of action, and this is what's going to happen at the end of that course of action. Simple 3-card spread. These are some of the most famous ones. They're quick and they're easy, and everybody uses them for the quick and easy reads, right? Past, present, future. It's really that simple. What did happen, what is happening, what's going to happen. Use them all the time. Yes, no spread. This one's a little different. Somebody comes to you with a straight up yes, no question. You lay out the cards until you hit a major arcana, or you hit whatever number you designated as being the no answer. And every time you hit a major arcana before that, that's a yes answer. So in the example I'm showing on the screen, we've decided that 5 is the end. It's the no. And this reading came out to be all no's. But let's say you hit major arcana on 1, major arcana on 1, major arcana on 1, and major arcana on 1. That would be the most definitive yes answer you could possibly get. How long it takes to get to the no before you get, how long it takes to get to the yes tells you about the situation as it's developing. So if you set your yes at 13 cards and it took you all the way to 12 before you hit a major arcana, that's still a yes answer. But it's a yes with a whole lot of history behind it. And it's not as nearly as certain as a yes on the first card. And you take all 4 of those piles together and you go, okay, we hit 12 on every single one of these piles before we got our yes answer. So this yes is incredibly shaky. It's like a 51-49% yes. And you can look at each of the cards behind that major arcana to see why that yes is so shaky. On the other hand, if you've only got the major arcana in the first spot in every single position, and it's always 4 columns. If you've got a major arcana in the first position for every single one, that's a yes answer. It's the most definitive yes answer you can get. And those 4 major arcana will tell you why. That it's a yes and why it's so definitive. Spirits of the Circle. This one almost never comes up in any readings that I've done or probably will ever do. Because Spirits of the Circle is a relationship to God kind of question, right? And it comes up so seldom that I apparently don't even have any notes on it. Although I was sure that oh, there it is. Card number 1 in Spirits of the Circle is how you feel, your issue, the issue you're facing, right? And again, it's about relationships with the divine, with spirituality, with faith and religion. So yeah. Card number 2, and the layout for this is a little different as well. You'll see in a second. Kind of almost goes in an X-type pattern. Card number 2 is influence of genetics or influence of the family. How does your family feel about faith and spirituality and religion and things like and relationships with the divine? Card number 3 is friends, culture, or community. It's basically your extended family. How do they? What is their influence over you in this respect? Card number 4 is the influence of the time, the age, or your life stage. Right, a young person seeking spiritual guidance has a different set of influences than an older person because of the times, because of their age, and because of their life stage. Right, a maiden has a different set of experiences than a crone, and a young stag has a different set of experiences than an old buck. This is where those influences are revealed. 5 is the influence of the living area, the the place where you live, the place where you grew up. These all have different influences on your spiritual development. Whether you grew up in a slum or in a mansion will make a difference how you feel about spirituality. And this is where those influences are revealed. Influence of past lives. And I don't think I need to say anything more about that. And then 7 is the influence of the divine. This is God's hand in your life. So you could, in theory, have all of these influences are aligning in one particular way, and card number 7 is aligning completely the opposite. And you'll end up going with the opposite because that's what God intends for you to do. Or you could spend an eternity fighting against it. But yeah, it's influential and it's about spirituality. The tree comparison. This is another relationship spread, right? But this time you got both of the people sitting in front of you, and they want to know what the heck is going on. So you've got Q1 and Q2, and that's the two people sitting in front of you. And it's really going to be up to you to decide who is querent 1 and who is querent 2. If you can, you should try to figure out who's the dominant personality. And it's usually just the person who puts the question to you, right? Whoever's actually doing the asking will be querent 1. Not that it ends up making a huge difference in the end, but this will help you figure out who those two people are. Card number 1 is the foundation of the issue, the foundation of the relationship. Card number 2 is the stuff that's just happened. Number 3 is where things are now, the current state of affairs, right? So this is going to give you a glimpse into what's going on. Card number 4, again, it's crossed, and you should kind of get used to seeing this in tarot card readings. If you have a card that's crossing another card, it's almost always going to be an obstacle, whether it be to the relationship or to the two individuals together, which it is in this case. It's the obstacles both of them have faced. Cards that cross other cards are almost always obstacles. Then you've got card number 5, which is the dominant person's view on the relationship, followed by card 6, which is the submissive person's or the less dominant person's views on the relationship. 7 and 8 are the expectations of the respective person. What do they expect out of what's going on? And then card number 9 is the best possible outcome. And it's called a tree comparison, and you can see how you may also want to call it like a cups comparison or a glass comparison. But yeah. And a horoscope comparison. This is one of the longest tarot card readings that you're going to do, but it's all about, this is also another unusual one in that there isn't really an issue at hand. It's all about just who is the person sitting in front of you asking the questions. And sometimes, in fact, fairly often, If I don't know the person at all, like this is somebody coming in completely off the street, and I have the time and the energy to do it, I'll do a horoscope reading before I do any of the other readings for them, because I need to know about them before I can tell them about them, right? And it starts with a significator, which is, whoever they are, the dominant personality trait that's coming through at that moment. Card number 1 represents Aries. It's the personality, the appearance, their outlook on life. Card number 2 is Taurus. Finances, material possessions, things of that nature, right? All about the money. Card number 3 is Gemini, which always is about communication. How do they communicate? How well do they communicate? What's their manner of communication? Card number 4 represents Cancer. It's old age, endings, and the way things flame out. How do they handle endings? What happens when things end for them? Things like that. Card number 5 is Leo, and this is about children and the heart and creativeness. It's about what it's about that type of love that relates to family. Card number 6 is Virgo, health and hygiene. How well do they take care of themselves? And that's really all I need to say about that too, I think. Card number 7 is Libra. It's how they balance their partnerships. How do they work as members of a two-part team? This can be the relationship, their personal relationships, or it can be how they're talking to their boss, or how they're talking to their subordinates, or how they're talking to their peers. But it's all about them and one other person. Number 8 is Scorpio. This is dealing with loss. So in 5, we talked about how, in 4, in Cancer, we talked about how things are ending. Those things are endings by choice. Scorpio deals with endings that aren't by choice. How do you deal with unexpected loss? How do you deal with death? Things of that nature. Number 9, Sagittarius. It's all about travel. Whether they like it, love it, hate it, have to do it, however it goes. Number 10 is Capricorn. It's what are their ambitions? What do they want out of life? What do they want out of the moment? It can tell you a lot about how they're going to get there when you know where they want to go. Number 11, Aquarius. This is friendships and associations. These are the people that aren't really all that close, like family is, but they're not as close as the family that you make either. One step off from BFFs, right? Just regular Fs, possibly even just regular BFs, right? These are how the people get along in those types of relationships. And then number 12, Pisces, is karma. Do they have a karmic buildup? What flavor is their karmic buildup? Is it generally positive, but with a big black spot in this one particular area, or is it generally negative with this one bright spot? Or is it all bright spots, or is it even a mix? And that'll tell you, when you take all of these things into consideration together, it tells you a whole lot about the person who's sitting in front of you.